Hi, everybody. When you're feeling overwhelmed, scattered, or even suddenly inspired, and we think that that comes directly from our own minds, but what if it doesn't? What if it's not you? What if it is a flood of information that is just traveling through the field of awareness and it lands right here in your mind, in your brain? When there's strong Mercury activity, and the planets are shifting signs, they open up fresh new channels, new frequencies, new thoughts, and new truths. And this isn't just energy, it's information, it's intel. And how you receive it and what you do with it can change everything. We're going to talk about it because this is a big Mercury week, lots of mental information happening. Before we get there, I'm Nafa Perkins of Electra Astrology. This is the path ahead, my weekly astrology forecast. I'm going to bring you through the things that are happening in the sky so that you don't have to go through your week blindly. Have a little bit of insider info on how to work with this energy, how to react to it, how to use it to be your most powerful self. So let's go ahead and just get settled. So much of our mental activity keeps us up in our head. And we know that Mercury is connected to the nervous system. I was just doing this astro cohort this weekend with my class, and we were making that connection between the mental Mercury Gemini mind, all the things, all the facts, all the figuring out that comes in, activates our head center. And then what happens? Goes straight into our nervous system and dysregulates it. You can just think about your weekend. How was it? What thoughts came in? You were doing just fine. And then some thought body came in and instantly you were stressed out. Or maybe it was an idea that came in and you were inspired and you wanted to get moving on that inspiration. We are looking at the connection this week, especially because it is such a strong Mercury week. Mercury is finally out of retrograde, which means that it's going to start moving a little bit faster and a little bit faster. Mercury is a planet that loves to move. And when it has to slow down, and especially when it has to go backward in a retrograde cycle, it can throw our own mind, our own mental capacity off because we're being asked to do something different. I have a great Mercury guide. I am going to stick the link to get that down below in the box. It'll be in the show notes on the podcast. And it's going to tell you a little bit more about your personal Mercury sign, how your brain works. And it's really fascinating information. It's a helpful tool to have because Mercury is in our lives all day, every day. Think about how often you use your brain. Think about how often your thoughts are either helping you or hindering you. And the way that I teach astrology is largely about working to control your mind so that your brain isn't the one that is in total charge. As the I Ching calls it, the brain, the inner critic, the parts of us that are always judging and demanding and trying to sway the story, the I Ching calls those our inferiors. Our higher self, our witness, our connection to our higher power, that is our superior self. Although we need the mind, unfortunately, the mind comes in and really does a number on us. It is very stressful. It tells us a lot of things that aren't necessarily true, and it gets really distracted by information that's out there that is meaningless in the long run, but impacts the nervous system and makes us stressed out. So go ahead, get that guide. It'll help you out. And let's jump into looking at the charts for the week. Ask your higher self before you begin listening to allow you to hear exactly what you need to hear. You don't need to remember every single thing that I talk about. Your heart will know what really resonates and what piece of wisdom you need to take with you into the week so that you can do it. We are all doing spiritual awakening here together. Part of spiritual awakening is becoming as conscious as possible of what we need in any given moment, how we are emotionally reacting in any given moment so that we can come back to our center, our heart, our gut, our core without getting spun out in the mind, which, we're all spinning out in our minds most of the time. And it doesn't do any of us any good, really. So let's look at the charts. If you're watching on YouTube, you can follow along looking at the charts. And if you are listening on the podcast, I'll verbally walk you through it. But we're starting off on Monday looking at this Mercury. Mercury has just come out of retrograde. It has just met with the North Node. Mercury does not like to be in the sign of Pisces. It is at its fall position there. Pisces information is too big and too unpredictable and too subjective. And Mercury likes objectivity because that is where the facts are, and that is how we make connections. This is how it works. This is what we're doing. This is the proof. This is what we already know. These are the details. Those are Mercury things. So Mercury, your mind, has probably been in a bit of a struggle over the past few weeks, especially because a Mercury retrograde makes us go back into the past, reevaluating details, making us look at the places that we thought we were right and maybe we weren't right, looking at our communication skills. Maybe you came to understand this week that the way that you were thinking about something, the truth you were relating to actually wasn't true. And that's a lot for our Mercury mind. We have to create new neural pathways every time that we have to veer off of some familiar way of thinking or of relating, especially when Mercury is connecting with the North Node, which is about our evolution. And it's about our spiritual evolution. We're all evolving in ways that we don't fully understand. Pisces is a difficult sign to grasp because it makes us confront things like spirit, relationship to God, the magic and the mysteries of the universe. Also, things like compassion and empathy and energetic merging, right? These are not things that have been in the collective conversation for most of our lifetimes. It's only starting to filter in now over the last several years, but there's more admission that some of these magical things, we'll call them, actually are real and are happening. And we are learning to wrap our minds around that. I think on a personal level, if we're doing what we call spiritual awakening, which if you're listening to this, you're definitely doing spiritual awakening, that there's an awakening of your consciousness and you're starting to notice things that were invisible before. And that's a lot for our mind to wrap its mind around. This 28-degree Mercury in Pisces making a trine to 28-degree Mars in Cancer. So this is where we're looking at our emotional reactivity. Cancer is very emotional. Cancer wants to stay safe, and Mars is the warrior. This is where we have been, as Mars has been in Cancer for months. We've all had to look at and assess our desire for safety and security, our need to be loved, and how our inner warrior, our reactivity, our defense systems relate to that need for safety. I think a lot of us have seen in popular culture that there has been a real sharp reactivity and almost a permission to be angry and reactive, to go out into the world and fight for what feels like a loss of security. And I think that we're also seeing some of the futility of that, because when we are meeting our fears with anger and war, that creates more chaos and more instability. We're looking at bringing our emotional reactivity, our desire to protect and defend ourselves, and bringing in the mind and the new way of looking at things. It's a mind bender to say, wait a minute, if I feel unsafe, instead of fighting the people that are making me feel unsafe, what if I change my perspective and I look at it through a different lens? Maybe I'm not as unsafe as I was thinking originally. Or maybe there's a creative way to step into my power so that I don't have to go out and wage war and create more chaos and more casualties. I can actually defend myself in a way that is more peaceful for all involved. So that's something to think about. Think about situations, even over the past weekend, where your hackles got raised. You felt that anger rising. You know, on some level, you needed to go into self-protection. And then maybe you were able to switch it around and say, you know, I have a little bit of compassion for that person that was upsetting me because I know that they are struggling. Maybe they have something going on in their lives. Maybe it's not that they are coming for me to attack me and make me feel unsafe. Maybe they feel unsafe. And maybe my work isn't in retaliating against them so that they feel what I feel and I feel vindicated. Maybe it's about me doing my own personal work to look at why I felt so unsafe in the first place. This is deep work, you guys. Like, this is that time on the planet where if you're a light worker, you've come in to go deep. We're not on the surface anymore. And remember, we're not solving problems with the same energies that we used to try to solve problems with. We are in such a massive evolutionary shift, but it takes this deeply personal exploration to be shifting. We're not going to see that shift happen because we get a certain person voted into office. We're not going to see that shift happen because people are fighting in the streets. We're going to be more likely to see that shift happen when we're doing our own personal exploration and we're busting ourselves and saying, wow, I can't fight hatred and animosity in the world with more hatred and animosity. I can't do it. It doesn't work. And so Mars in trine to Mercury is bringing you some lessons about that. On the 16th, we see Mercury making its way out of Aries. So this is the first planet that is changing signs. When a planet changes signs, it changes the way that we relate to, in this case, this is Mercury, the way that we're thinking. We've been trying to solve puzzles with our brains that have been really difficult. Now, when Mercury moves into Aries, we get some fresh energy. Although I have to say, it's not quite that fresh because Mercury runs straight into Neptune. And Neptune is the ruler of Pisces. But we still have the support of this Aries energy now. Now, Neptune and Mercury are meeting in the land of fire. So even though Neptune is still going to keep us a little bit foggy and unclear, at least we're standing around a fire, warming our hands. And think about this. You've just come out of a chilly, cloudy day. That is Mercury in Pisces. And you step into the clearing. And it's still a chilly and cloudy day, but now there's a fire. You can warm your hands by the fire. You're getting a little more clarity. There's more light. You're coming back to your body. You're not nearly as uncomfortable as you were. So there's something about the way that your mind is going to start functioning in a little bit of an easier way. You might have some more clarity of thought. Remember, if there's a dynamic field of highly intelligent awareness around us at all times, and we, using our consciousness, are able to tap into it. This is where you pull in thoughts and ideas and inspiration. And it's also where you can accidentally pull in stress or fear or worry. We are working during this time period to be more specific about what we allow into our brains, what kind of energy we are willing to accept into our field. So we bring in energetic hygiene. If you're doing great, and all of a sudden you're down in the dumps because you've thought of some sad thing, or your anger is ignited because something upset you that you saw maybe on your screen, you can politely say, goodbye, you're not welcome here. I'm not going to accept this thought body into my system, and play around with that, because we're learning about our magic. We're learning about the power of what we're actually doing here as humans. And we have superpowers that we never even thought about. And that's one of them. You can control what comes into your mind, and you can control the reaction of your nervous system, but it takes consciousness. If you're not paying attention, you're just like a leaf that got thrown into the river. You're just riding the waves. You're going under, you're hitting rocks, you are losing yourself. So we're practicing finding ourselves here. On the 18th, we have Mars entering Leo. So this is our second planet that is moving into a new sign. Mars has been slow since October when it began its retrograde. It hasn't been in retrograde for a while, but it's been very slow. It's been slogging through Cancer. Mars does not like to be in Cancer because that is how we move into action. Mars is fire. Mars wants to go. Mars wants to follow passion and purpose. Mars wants to stand up for what it knows is right. It's been in Cancer, like I said earlier. This is all about safety and security. A warrior does not do well cooped up in the house. A warrior does not do well with a mother always telling it what to do. And a warrior does not do well when it is trying to defend the people that it loves. And that is the energy of Mars in Cancer, right? We want to move forward. We want to be decisive. We want to take action. But there's been all these questions about security. I'm scared. I don't want to do this. So finally, Mars is moving out of Cancer and it's moving into Leo. Mars feels really energized in the sign of Leo. But Leo is connected to the heart. So again, we're not warriors moving in to fight. and to kill and to cause carnage. We are warriors that are listening to our heart, following our heart's guidance, which requires, again, another kind of listening, another kind of strong consciousness around how you make decisions and what you move forward with. On April 19th, we see the sun hitting 29 degrees of Aries. The sun has been riding very close to Chiron for the last week or so. And last week we had sun meeting Chiron. So our identity, who we are, our conscious light, that is the sun. The sun helps us to see what we need to see, but only if we are becoming more aware of who we are. We're all very unique. We all bring different things to these lives. We've come in to learn different lessons and course correct past life mistakes. We are trying to learn who we are when it comes to the sun. So you have learned a lot, I would imagine, with Chiron and the sun traveling together. You've learned a lot about the wounds, the things that were said to you, the people that were responding to you, the conditioning that you had around whether it was okay to be you. You know, we've been seeing ourselves quite differently as the sun was close to Chiron, and now the sun is about to leave Aries, and it's going to go into Taurus. So this is our third planet. Sun is a star, but this is our third big personal energy. Mercury, Mars, Sun, all very personal. We are using these aspects of ourselves every moment of every day. Sun enters Taurus. Taurus is completely different energy. The way that we consciously relate to life shifts now from fire. And, you know, it was really busy as the sun had to pass through all the Pisces planets, and then it had to pass over all of the Aries stuff. Not easy. These were not easy meetings. And now it's finally in Taurus, and it can breathe for a minute. It's going to make a square to Pluto, and then it's going to have to meet with Uranus. But for now, we've made it into Taurus. This is a grounding energy. There's an invitation to take a deep breath, look around, take stock of where you've been and what you need. So this is that energy where you've been traveling all day. You finally make it to your Airbnb and you get there and you're exploring it and you're saying, wow, this is going to be home for the next week. I want to unpack my stuff. I want to get into the kitchen. I want to take stock of what's here in this kitchen so that we know what we need when we go to the store. We're getting settled in, and that's the Taurus energy. Take advantage of it this week. Like I said, the sun has some tricky connections to make over the next few weeks, but that's okay. We are more solid and fortified now than we have ever been in our lives. But the caveat is that we're working on the mind control. We don't want to let just any old thought body come in. We don't want to let just any old person come in. We don't want to let our emotions come in and sweep us away. We don't want to be derailed by things that we can easily have boundaries with, as long as we are conscious that we need the boundary. All right, so take some deep breaths into that. Come back into your body. Your body is going to be what will alert you to the need for a boundary. You'll notice if your nervous system is addled. You will notice if you need to take some deep breaths, if you need a glass of water, if you need to just say, nope, not today. I'm not going to let that in. I am not going to go down that road of strong emotional reaction. I'm not even going to let this person throw me off. I'm working on being centered. I'm working on being conscious. That is one of your gifts that you are lending to the planet right now. Any work of consciousness that you do is a gift to the people that do not know how to do it yet. The more of us that do it, the more people will catch on. All right, so we're doing some big stuff. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you all soon.